policy at GSA. But I'm responsible for lots of policy areas, and I wear a multitude of hats. I'm the Chief Acquisition Officer for GSA. I'm also the Chief Regulatory Officer. I co-chair the agency's equity team. I'm also the senior official for Made in America Council. And just recently, I've been appointed as our agency representative on the Interagency Working Group for HBCUs. So I wear these hats among many others in my role as Associate Administrator. So at GSA, as many of you know, we support a government that capitalizes on interagency collaboration so that we can make sure that management is making informed decisions and we're providing shared services to improve operations, ultimately delivering value for the American people. That's our number one goal and priority. So, GSA is responsible for delivering more than $84 billion of products, services, and solutions that allow federal agencies, including our own, to be efficient so that we can meet, as a government, meet the missions and also save taxpayer dollars. Recently, you've heard from our FAST Commissioner, Sonny Hashmi. We're also one of the biggest, or probably the biggest, real estate. We have the biggest real estate portfolio of anyone. We're the government's federal landlord, and we house more than 1 million federal employees of 50 agencies and more than 8,600 facilities in more than 22 communities nationwide. Our PBS Commissioner, Nina Albert, shared with you tons of information about the real estate. But my office, which is the Office of Government-Wide Policy, helps agencies move forward towards operating as one federal enterprise. We want to make sure that government works better and also things cost less. So to name a few things, when you hear government-wide policy, it means a lot. It truly does. So I'm responsible for writing IT policy, travel and transportation policy, person and real property policy. And we also promote innovative workplace solutions. We lead the way in developing and setting standards for the federal government around high performance green buildings. And what most people know us for is for writing acquisition policy. And so my senior procurement executive, Jeff Kosis, who many of you know, represents GSA on the FAR Council and is a voting member of the FAR Council. And I always talk about my job and my role at GSA is to make the government work better for the public and to save money while doing it. So we really focus on doing that within GSA and with other agencies who are our customers. So each agency, as you know, has its customer base. Those are groups of Americans that they want to serve at just the right moment using the just the right tool. And in many cases, that tool is the acquisition system. And so in my role, we're focused on making sure that the acquisition delivers best value solutions and at the same time achieve public policy objectives. So part of that is twofold, right? We want to make sure that we're fostering an inclusive environment and also a collaborative environment. So to achieve this OGP, we have to use a government-wide lens. Government-wide is in our office title, Office of Government-Wide Policy. And so we participate, and in some cases we even lead, myself or members of my team, interagency councils and working groups focused on equity and procurement, labor, minimum wage, cybersecurity, supply chain, risk management, making sure products are made in America, by America. And as I mentioned, HBCUs, including some other topics. So acquisition policy, in this role, we really do see ourselves serving as a change agent to help create a procurement system that supports and also promotes the achievement of federal business goals. We want to make sure that the agencies that use our tools are being strategic with those tools. So we also want to make sure that we're reducing federal overhead by buying products and services at a lower cost. We're also interested in facilities improvements for taxpayer service delivery by placing better quality and higher performing supplies, technology, and support services in the hands of the managers who use them every day. Our goal is to be more efficient, timely, and customer focused. We're working towards producing better information to support the planning and execution of procurement functions. So we're constantly trying to update and improve our processes and our technologies. And we also want to make sure that we're encouraging participation of all the nation's diverse human and business resources in the revitalization of the country, of the economy and the country. So we're serving to protect the public interest as well as the demands that the government has around business solutions, while also maintaining a high ethical standard. As you all probably remember, almost a year ago, the president announced an increase in the SDB goal up to 15% by 2025. What you may or may not be aware of is that GSA also increased our SDB goal for FY22 from 5%, which was our goal in 2021, to 21%. This represents more than a four-fold increase from the previous year. The goal has been assigned by SBA. This helps to advance the president's whole of government approach to expanding contracting opportunities for SDBs across the country. So to achieve this goal, we have to take specific actions. And we've been very intentional about the action. We have issued very recently, I believe it was just last week or 2 weeks ago, an equity plan that lays out all of our actions that we plan to take. Actually, it's not all of them. It's just some of the actions that we plan to take. We were limited in the number of pages that we could publish, but there are many more actions that we intend to take besides the ones that are laid out in that plan. Some of them include we conducted an equity assessment overall of the agency, but we recognize that we have not conducted in many years an assessment of the FAR forms. Many of those forms haven't been updated in over 20 years. And so we're looking at those forms to make sure that they are accessible to all communities, that the definitions are clear, that the layout is very clear and concise, and so that we are making sure that the individuals who access those FAR standard forms are accessing forms that are updated for this day and age. We've also are very close at finalizing our 8A partnership with the SBA. This, once signed, will be an update in the partnership agreement for nearly 10 years, if not more, but it will begin to unlock opportunities for those 8A firms and allow our contracting officers to, or incentivize them to use 8A firms even more. We're also, without just creating more rules for our contracting officers to use, we're also developing equity-related training for the entire acquisition workforce. As I mentioned before, we're partnering with HBCUs so that we can develop a curriculum for them so that they can help train future acquisition workforce employees, which will be critical so that we can keep the supply there. We've also increased our pledge to obligate at least 2.5% of our dollars in FY22 to Americans with disabilities. Now, you might ask, how are you all going to do that? And so I mentioned that we have an equity procurement equity plan, but we have also created and will be made available very soon a supplier diversity plan. OGP in partnership with Exodi Rowe, who's our OSDBU. So a part of that mobilization, we looked at every phase of the acquisition cycle. We looked at every contracting vehicle, and we've identified initiatives that will both increase access and opportunities while also ensuring that there's a level playing field so that everyone can get an opportunity to get in the game. And part of that is really focusing on making sure that we're improving contract accessibility, both pre-award and post-award. So that means regular on-ramping until our multiple award schedules. We have committed to strengthening our supplier diversity base throughout the contract life cycle. We want to make sure that we're updating our mass roadmap so that we can simplify processes and launching an updated vendor support center on our website so that it provides a wide range of resources for companies to use. We've also been focused on building our SDB opportunities into the acquisition programs. You probably have heard recent news about Polaris, and we're working to ensure that that's equitable. The 8A stars, next generation services, multiple agency contract, all of these vehicles so that we can support other federal agencies in achieving the goals. We're also focused on ensuring SDB access throughout the life cycle of major GSA or IDIQ contracts by providing some periodic onboarding opportunities through on-ramps, or regular on-ramps. We have e-tools that we're using to provide forecasts for contracting opportunities so that small businesses don't have to search all over the internet. They can utilize the forecast and get all of the opportunities in a one-stop shop so that you'll know what's being developed. Today, as we're speaking, the OSDBU is leading a strategy for an enterprise-wide approach to support small disadvantaged businesses through a post-award engagement strategy. Specifically here, we'll provide resources and tools to help contractors who have low to no sales obtain orders. Many contractors get on the schedule, but get no sales while they're on the schedule. So we really want to focus on the post-award engagement strategy that we have. We are also committed to providing additional events, trainings, and also metrics to show our progress. We are talking a lot about green procurement, green energy lately. Well, we know that that's a market that typically many businesses are not familiar with or just have not participated in. So we want to make sure that we're creating new markets. GSA has long been a key force in introducing new products and services into the federal marketplace. Currently, we're exploring new markets created by the administration's focus on sustainability and success and climate. So for instance, the Build Back Better with low embedded carbon construction materials, they have less climate impact associated with mining and manufacturing. So again, this creates an opportunity for a new market. We're also buying sustainable products and services that comply with statutory and regulatory requirements and also conform to specifications and standards and eco-labels recommended by the EPA. We are supporting electrification and net zero emission targets by using all electric equipment for HVAC, domestic water heating, appliances and new construction, and major renovation projects. And we're providing 100% renewable electricity sources for GSA-owned real estate. Our goal is to provide 100% by 2025. And so with these in mind and knowing that this is a goal of ours, enables the work, the industry base to begin to provide these opportunities to GSA and other agencies, thereby creating a new marketplace for those businesses. We're also committed to continue to foster a healthy and a productive relationship with industry partners like you all at mid-tier advocacy through having an open dialogue. We want to have an exchange of information. We want to understand what's going on in the industry on the ground. And the only way to do that is to have continuous open communication. We are also committed to having and conducting industry roundtables and forums where we can have a cross-section of ideas and have critical discussions. We are provided to also provide education opportunities for SDBs and other underserved communities because it's important and very critical for us to cultivate these longstanding relationships with the supplier community. We have set all of these goals, and we know that what gets done only gets done because we're measuring it, and we're tracking our progress. So we are ensuring that we are keeping our leadership accountable for achieving these targets, specifically around small business contracting goals, by including these in performance plans of those individuals. And then finally, there is a requirement for us to continuously to review our effectiveness, and when required, we make adjustments to what we're doing to better understand and improve our processes. As I mentioned earlier, we have increased our Ability One goal to obligate dollars up to 2.5%. We anticipate exceeding that goal, but I just want to put a little bit of context into what the Ability One program. The Ability One program is one of the largest sources of employment in the United States for people who are blind or have significant disabilities. The Ability One program is a $4 billion annual program that supports categories of disabilities, providing thousands of essential products and services, and supports small businesses in obtaining socioeconomic independence. So in October 2020, OFPP told all federal agencies, but told us that we needed to designate an Ability One representative, an ABOR. So this ABOR or representative is responsible for doing certain things at an agency. They're supposed to advocate for the purchasing in accordance with mandatory source contracting procedures. This ABOR is supposed to engage with the agency's workforce to build awareness and support for the Ability One program mission. The ABOR also is responsible for monitoring and capturing GSA's Ability One spend and help us to identify opportunities to increase that spend. And also the ABOR is supposed to provide feedback to the Ability One Commission to improve the value of the Ability One program. So not only did GSA appoint or designate an Ability One ABOR at the agency level, but we also appointed 2 at the service level. So one ABOR that focuses on the Federal Acquisition Service, which is Sonny Hashmi, who you met a few weeks ago, and another ABOR who focuses on the Public Building Service. So we have 3 ABORs within GSA. Again, I mentioned that our pledge was increased to 2.5% for FY22, and it's my goal that we exceed that goal. I just want to bring up a couple of other offices for your awareness, because these offices that are within OGP is there for you. It's the Ombudsman's Office, which is led by Maria Schwabe. So the Ombudsman's Office fosters a healthy and productive working relationship with industry. They provide intervention to really resolve differences and reduce the likelihood of a form of protest or litigation. And so this office is independent, is impartial, and it's a confidential office for you all to use if there is a need. Then there's another office that sits within OGP that sometimes you don't want to hear from, and that's the Suspension and Debarment Office. But it's important to have these offices really to decide whether or not to take administrative actions, such as suspension and debarment, when there are bad actors. And that office is led by Bill Smith. Now, the Suspension and Debarment Office actively engages in outreach and education, because we want to avoid suspension and debarment. And we regularly speak before the American Bar Association and also trade associations in regular meetings and gatherings that we have. There are 2 opportunities that I want to share with this group today that were recently announced. And the first is that our Green Building Advisory Committee is seeking candidates for new members with experience in environmental justice, equity, and green buildings. And so if anyone is interested in participating in this advisory committee, we're looking for a candidate, and nominations are open until May 20th. We're trying to cast a very wide net, so all backgrounds are welcome to, all communities, identities, races, ethnicities, backgrounds, cultures, abilities, beliefs, including the underserved community, and from all geographic locations are encouraged to apply. Either nominate yourself or nominate a colleague today, because we're looking at filling the seat for that GBAC community. Now, another very exciting opportunity I'd like to share with you all is actually a new committee that we're launching. On Earth Day, which was just this past Friday, we launched a new Acquisition Policy Federal Advisory Committee. And so this GAP FAC is what we call it, is going to serve to advise GSA on how to use acquisition tools and authorities to target high priority federal acquisition challenges. I mentioned earlier that the administration has a big focus on climate and sustainability. So the initial focus of this GAP FAC will be on driving regulatory and policy and process changes required to embed climate and sustainability considerations into federal acquisition. Now we'll go from acquisition policy around green procurement to something else. The next topic may be technology related, but the initial focus here is on climate and sustainability. And we'll tackle some other emerging issues, more emerging acquisition issues and challenges, and also just think about opportunities to support GSA as its role in America's buyer. Our goal at GSA is to really be an acquisition system that is modern, right? We've got to update our systems, meaning the processes that we use. We want to be accessible to all Americans, and we want to streamline our acquisition ecosystem so that we can encourage a very robust marketplace, so that we connect buyers and sellers and we can meet the agency's needs. That's our goal, to connect buyers and sellers to meet the agency's needs. And so we're looking for members of the public to sit on the advisory committee. The nomination process has just begun. We're looking at a cross-section between the federal government, state and local governments, industry, including trade association, business owners like yourselves, as well as those in academia who understand the acquisition process. The call for nominations are due by May 23rd. And we hope that you all would consider submitting an application, or several of you would consider submitting applications. So our goal really is to have active engagement so that everyone is at the table. I want to just thank everyone for the opportunity to address this group today, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Krystal, I have just got to say, first and foremost, we are just so appreciative of you in the position you're in, given all of the information you have from the Capitol Hill to association work and now to GSA, where all of those skill sets matter, and the understanding of small and emerging business and the challenges that each incur along the way. I heard a number of amazing opportunities today that I feel will help in the sustainability of these small growing firms. And again, we want, as an organization, I'm just going to speak in broad terms from mid-tier advocacy standpoint. As you know, we have been involved with GSA over the years, and welcome the opportunity to come back and sit with your team there and talk through some ideas and opportunities. We look forward to still being around your table and having more of GSA executives and officials come back and sit at our table, because as we view this, as you stated, as a partnership, as a way of bringing industry to the policy side that actually impacts how people do business. So with having said that, I want to turn to our chat. We do have some people who have actually placed some questions in the chat. And I'm also going to suggest, because this is an intimate gathering today, we have several board members that I would love to recognize before I get to the questions. Of course, we have Brian Davis, our president, RJ Colton, who is the vice president. We have Heidi Girding, Louisa Jaffe, and Norris Middleton, all on our board that are present today. And I'm so glad they were able to attend. if people would like, and Deborah Hardnett, of course, I don't want to leave out Deborah, who actually helps to keep me technically on my feet. So I want to also recognize the fact that if you would like, you can turn on your cameras and raise your hand if you want to present your question. And while you're doing that, I'm going to take a couple from our chat. What kinds of questions is GSA seeking answers to in order to resolve industry concerns about teaming on large procurements?
Our industry, what kinds of questions are we seeking industry to teaming large procurements?
Would you like that
you want
expand on a little bit?
Yeah, but more specific, Mr. Murphy? Polaris?
Polaris.
Ah,
There you have it.
well, thank you for the question. Unfortunately, that's an open procurement, and I can't speak to it at this time. What I can say is the information. There's additional information on our website, I believe also on sam.gov, but it is paused currently, and so you can look at those websites for additional information in the coming weeks.
Understood. I have another question from one of our participants, and that is, what's the information for the last advisory committee that you referenced, the acquisition advisory committee?
Sure. So the GSA Acquisition Policy Federal Advisory Committee, also known as the GAP-FAT, it was just launched, or an intent to launch on Friday. The announcement came out on Friday. There's a call for nominations currently. I can share that announcement with you, Tanya, and you can circulate it to the group. Oh, there it is.
Yep, that's
Lena put it in the chat.
She actually is my intern staff assistant, so she's listening intently and trying to send this out to everyone. So thank you, Alina.
Thank you.
Great. I saw another question and I missed it. Let's see.
Someone asked about the website for GSA Green Advisory Panel. Is that the same?
So it's a different one. I think Alina may have put that one in the chat earlier up top. No, that's the Ombudsman Ability One. I can share that with you. That's a separate FACA that we're looking for one member to serve, one additional member to serve on. We have a person who's rolling off, and that individual we're looking is to have environmental justice and equity experience in the green building space.
And do you have a deadline for that nomination?
That nomination is May the 20th. So a little over a month.
I'm putting that here.
A little less than a month.
On the GSA e-commerce initiative with the recent request for comments on expanding the initiative.
On expanding the initiative. So no updates other than the request of our comments. We'll take all the feedback, evaluate it, and then provide the proper updates around the initiative. So no additional updates at this time, Brian, other than please respond via comments per the request.
Fantastic. Let's see, did I miss anything? Not sure.
Does GSA have a number of portal providers in mind? Not to my knowledge, Mr. Murphy.
I see RJ has his hand up. RJ, if you could unmute.
I was too hard to type my question, so you'll have to excuse me. We had a interesting discussion about a week ago, and I'm curious from your perspective. I'm not sure if you have the, you may or may not be able to answer. We were talking about rates of inflation and the fact that we are now experiencing pretty historic high levels of inflation with really no clear definitive answer when they're going to drop, if they will drop it. Let's say they're running at 8% a year. Given that all our schedules, for those of us that have them, we've been living with like 1.5 to 2 to 2.5% escalation per year for the longest time, probably 2 decades. What is GSA talking about doing? Because it's going to probably impose tremendous burden on industry if this goes on for 2 years, since all the schedules were reflected such low escalation. So salaries probably are going to creep up most likely, and this is going to pose real challenges, particularly for small businesses as they try to hire people, maintain and retain them, and provide the kind of services government agencies want. Has there been any discussion about that within your field or with one of your colleagues?
So I can't comment on that either, RJ, but I can take that question back to my group and let them know that we had a question on inflation. But at this time, I can't provide.
Well, that'd be great if you could do that. I think we'd be very interested in an authoritative discussion. And I'm sure it's probably something you all are probably not, it's relatively current,
Yep.
But it'd be great if you all could maybe discuss it at your level and let us know what they're thinking, and maybe we can help in that arena as well.
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you.
Be open to that.
Okay, I see a hand raised. Mr. Tibbs?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Saunders. I appreciate very much being here. And also, Ms. Brimfield, it's a pleasure to meet you virtually over this. Wanted to just follow back up again, and that those nominations for the Green Building Advisory Committee, who are those submitted to, and is there a hyperlink for that? We have one of our colleagues in mind to be able to then to do that. And then my second question would be the HBCUs. One of our colleagues actually is working with North Carolina Central University now to develop a cybersecurity operations center, and that we're working diligently to get those particular components to be in place and furthered. But is that something that we could share with you? That yes, it might be an ex parte communication, whatever, but at least to make you aware of it, because this is something that seems to be that's in your purview to do something along with this. And then these are things that are also related to what are destined to come out here very, very soon with the NTIA, the National Telecommunications and Information Administration, for the bipartisan infrastructure law that's then is dealing with a digital equity. So I know it's a long question. There's actually 2 parts, but thank you very much.
Sure. So for the GBAC, your first question regarding the GBAC, within the announcement, there is a link, or at least a contact information for you to submit your nomination. And so we'll then provide that to you in email after the meeting through Tanya. With regards to the HBCU information, then by all means, please share the information so that I am aware of it. Again, I'm the policy shop, and so I'm not the procurement office. So any information that you want me to be aware of, I'm happy to, but any open procurements or solicitations should not and wouldn't come to me.
Understood. Thank you very much. But usually how it works is that policy then makes other particular matters flow effectively.
I have a couple of more questions for you, Krystal. Let's see here. SOUP V services spending hit a record $3 billion in fiscal 2021, according to GSA's contract data. And how much overlap is anticipated among the large IT services GWACs going forward? And how is this impacting planning for Alliant 3 or any other vehicles, if you can speak?
Thank you for your question, Mr. Murphy. I don't have an answer to that. I can go back to the team and get back to you with that answer if we're allowed to comment on it.
Okay. From me, Krystal, in respect to the increase, and Mr. Murphy says he understands. In respect to some of the increase in the goals and how you're going to now be working with SBA, how do you see the coordination as it pertains to, for example, some of the NAICS codes that get when small businesses exceed those size standards and that type of thing? I know you mentioned increasing on-ramping for companies, and what a lot of mid-sized firms find is that they no longer can qualify for certain vehicles and so forth. Can you help me wrap my head around how now this coordination with SBA might open up some new avenues for some of those smaller firms, given that GSA will also have various vehicles that they may now hopefully qualify to be part of?
Sure.
Or am I seeing this wrong? But it sounds like there's somewhere along that bridge, there's an opportunity.
Sure. So what was happening is that we found that we would have an on-ramping opportunity for firms on, we'll say, on a program, right? I don't want to use Polaris or Alliant, but on one of those, and then the opportunity would just close, and for no further companies to be added. And so through an interagency working group, this came up in the conversation was, how do we open up opportunities on a regular basis for companies to get added at some point in the future? And so what we settled on was a regular on-ramping, that it rotated from program to program, so that there would be opportunities for businesses to get on various programs at some point in the future. And the opportunities wouldn't be closed to them if they missed the initial on-ramping. So this will create opportunities on a regular basis for firms to on-ramp when they weren't ready or prepared previously, so that the door wouldn't permanently be closed for them, or the opportunity wouldn't permanently be passed for them.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, that definitely is a change in allowing or opening up more doors than we've seen in the past. In respect to 8As, you mentioned there is going to be some changes in the 8A world. Can you expand a little bit on what that may mean?
So I can't go into great detail. It's still in the partnership agreement that's not quite public yet, but we are looking at several key things around the 8A that we really do think will open up opportunities for 8A firms in various parts of our program. So it will be around GSA schedules, right? Allowing more opportunities for 8As under schedule contracts. We're looking at an improvement around competition of the thresholds for 8A. We're also one of the areas that the partnership agreement will touch upon would be around new requirement procedures, as well as timeframes for SBA responses. And then the other big one would be an informal escalation process. So these are things that are still in the works, but we're pretty close to a formal agreement that we'll be prepared to sign with the SBA.
Fantastic. Now we hear, those of us out in the field hear that GSA is hiring. I know that may or may not be necessarily under your portfolio, but what does that mean in respect to opportunities, or as you see the need now to increase capacity at GSA?
Sure. So GSA is hiring. As you know, we've moved to a virtual environment. So many of our jobs are virtual. So the pool of candidates can now expand outside of the normal geographic bounds that we were once restricted to. But a little bit specifically as it relates to the acquisition workforce, and around our 1102s, the demographic shows that 9.8% of our 1102s are over the age of 60 or 60 or above, right?
Oh.
So it's showing that we have almost a 10% workforce that 60 of above, while only 4% of our 1102s are under the age of 30. So there's a bit of a gap there. In addition to that, we know that over 19% can retire today. And so if they opted to take their retirement, then that could potentially leave us with a gap. And so when we say that we are hiring, we're hiring specifically 1102s. There is a hiring challenge that we have, but we recognize that the pre-pandemic telework is a big advantage for GSA. And so with those current considerations, we are developing a recruitment strategy where we can recruit individuals early in their career through development programs, and also individuals who are mid-career, so that we can provide the additional training that's necessary at an early stage, and so that we can get those employees on board before so that we can avoid this gap or potential gap in our 1102 workforce.
Wow, thanks for expanding on that. That is very interesting. And being in the virtual world, I'm sure very welcome for some, so that they can participate as a government employee.
Yeah.
Brian Davis actually had one. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was going to just say what I want to add to that is that we are we're shifting the way that we think, right? The way that not just the way that we hire or recruit, but most specifically on the skill set that we identified that we need to hire. We're looking for high performing individuals who are not just coming in for a compliance role, but more as a business advisor role. We see a need for individuals with very strategic and critical thinking skills, as well as those who can manage data, because we really want data to drive our decisions. And of course, problem solving skills are very critical to have, and as well as leading people. We need people who are, good managers and can also build coalitions. And so those are some of the skills that we've identified as the top skills that we're looking for in individuals that we're recruiting for our 1102 category. So we are encouraging you all to help us identify those individuals, because a strong acquisition workforce means a stronger acquisition system. And so we are actively looking at all of the parts of our system to make sure that they're strong.
Oh, fantastic. And as you know, we have many different types of industries that are part of mid-tier advocacy, from the East Coast to the West Coast, and several in between. Brian actually placed something in the chat, and he was speaking, I think, in respect to another question. So this was probably a follow-on, but he mentioned that they've experienced long delays up to a year in getting items added to the program. Is there anything that we can do to make the process more expedient?
So Brian, I think that we could absolutely work together to improve that time frame. If your delays have been up to a year, I'm sure that the team over in FAST could help us to identify ways to streamline that. Again, we're looking to create an acquisition system that's modern, that's accessible, and that's streamlined. And so, but just by pointing this out and working actively with us, we hopefully together can find a way to improve that and to knock that delay time down significantly.
Let's see. He said, awesome, thanks so much. Oh, and Jackie Robinson Burnett is with us. Jackie, you should come off mute and just share a couple of things, please.
Hi, thank you so much. Krystal, of course, you know, I think you're a superstar, and I'm so happy to see you in this position because I met you back when you were on Capitol Hill, focused on legal issues for small businesses.
Sure.
And I'm just thrilled that GSA has chosen to have a leader that does have a commitment to small businesses. So I'm really excited about the information you shared about the acquisition workforce, because, you know, our biggest struggle with delays and mistakes in the acquisition process comes because we do have this huge contracting workforce that's retiring, and some of them are going to retire before they transfer the information to the young interns. And so for GSA to put this as a top initiative is huge, that GSA gets that. And so I'm just excited. My own daughter wants to be in 1102. So I was going to direct her to the Army. We're coming to GSA.
Good, great.
So-
It's great to hear that, Jackie. Great to hear from you. And we'll be excited to and honored to have your daughter as a part of our team. We absolutely would.
And just one last comment. Of course, I'm so thrilled to hear that GSA is focusing on 8As. 8As are my heart. You know, those are the small disadvantaged businesses that are creating jobs out in the community, hiring people that may be overlooked by other firms. And so for GSA to say, hey, we recognize 8A stars is not enough. We need more than 8A stars. So thank you very much for everything you're doing.
Thank you. And the last thing I'll leave you all with around the acquisition workforce is that, you know, training is so critical. I mentioned earlier training around diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. But yeah, we have a number of EOs that are just kind of coming in, and to juggle and balance all of the new regulatory updates can be daunting for someone. And so we are laser focused on making sure that we're training the acquisition workforce on all of the various updates and policy changes, so that the workforce can work effectively as a part of the overall acquisition system.
Excellent. We are almost out of time. We have about 5 more minutes. I'll take one additional question.
Mr. Tibbs had his hand up
Was that from, I think that was from earlier.
earlier. Okay.
Yeah. I would like to ask if any of the board members that joined late had anything they wanted to present, either from, excuse me, Heidi Girding, who we have not heard from yet, or Louisa, I don't know if you feel up to speaking, or North Middleton, Tom George. Any of you guys want to share anything or ask Krystal Brimfield anything before we conclude?
This is Norris. I just want to thank you for the information. It's been very valuable. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Norris. Heidi or Louisa?
So this is Heidi. Krystal, I just want to say thanks again on behalf of the board. Tanya, it should not go unsaid either that we thank you for your leadership and guidance on this board as well, and for getting these great speakers together to help us. You guys are both awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi.
Did I miss any other board members? We heard from RJ. Did Brian have to leave? Nope, Brian's still there. Brian, any concluding remarks?
Get my mute off here. No, just again, thank you, Krystal. We're excited to work with you in your new role, and couldn't be a better person in that position, and we will stay in touch.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian. Thank you to the entire board of directors. Thank you, Tanya. I did include my email address in the chat. I am a part of the administration now. I was a small business executive at one point and was on Capitol Hill. So I've seen the roles from different viewpoints. And I definitely understand the value of collaboration. So if you remember nothing else from the conversation today, remember that we want to partner with you to understand the challenges, the roadblocks that you all see on the ground, so that we can work collaboratively to improve the process and to remove the roadblocks. So thank you again for the opportunity to address the group today. It's been a pleasure to be with you this afternoon. So thank you.
Well, it's been our pleasure in having you with us, and we will all go back and listen to all of the things you said and find ways that we can come back and say, hey, by the way, we would love to find out a little bit more about this, or actually just, again, sit around your table along with Jeff Kosis and others and look at ways that we can be helpful to you. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you, Tanya.
That will conclude our webinar for today. We want to bring attention to, of course, our board members, our strategic partners, and thanking them for allowing us to be able to provide these webinars to all of you at no cost. And again, we are a 501c3 organization. So in the event that you are interested in supporting us, feel free to check out our website. We have a lot of information there on past webinars and events and those that will be coming up. Again, thank you, and let's celebrate Diversity Month together. Why? Because that is who we are. Have a great day.
Thank you.